Hey, my name's Leon Hitchens. This is the Marketing Boost, and today I have John from PacAPit on today.
Yeah. Good to be here. Thanks, Leon.
Like I said in the start of the podcast, we've got some history. I've done some mentoring. We've talked a lot. I've
Yeah.
seen your journey from when you won the geekdom money all the way to actually like building the business and everything. For the listeners, though, I want to like rehash that and also just kind of hear the start of PacAPit and how it's all kind of got going.
Sure. Yeah, I'll back up a little bit even further than that. So I come from the tech sector. I was with Apple for a fair amount of time, about 10 years,
Okay.
and then with an Apple reseller for another 5 in New York, and then a Blackboard, a learning management company out of New York, and doing that. Then we opened a restaurant, and that's when I became an entrepreneur and understanding that process. That was in 2013 after Hurricane Sandy. Opened that restaurant, got that process going. Found some very good success in doing operations and some efficiencies in the back of house and getting the business doing well. Took that, realized my parents were getting older and I wanted to spend the last years with them. So we moved back to San Antonio. This is where I'm from.
Oh, so San Antonio native.
San Antonio native.
Love
yeah.
that.
I didn't grow up in San Antonio, but Lakey is my home,
Okay.
where my first steps were on the Frio and at the HEB Foundation Camp. So HEB is this grocery store chain here in San Antonio, and my dad was the director under Mrs. Butt to start that camp. And so camping has been a big part of my life and has been an experience kind of imbued into who I am. Started that. So when we came back to Texas, I was doing some consulting and COVID hit during that time. And so my wife and I were sitting in the river and it started getting a little chilly. It was summertime, about this time of year. I was actually in June, and we thought, well, as the cypress shadows started showing up, it's starting to get chilly. Is there a way I can build a fire right next to us and we still can sit in the river?
Mm-hmm.
After that, it was how do we build a fire on top of water was kind of the joke of it. And over time, we built something that really worked out well with 3 points of contact that are stable. As long as you have those above water, you can build it pretty much on any kind of ground surface. I can even build a fire right here and do that. So we'll talk about that, the littlest one that I have. But I have 4 sizes. The Grande, which is about 36 inches. That's the bigger one.
Yeah.
The Medio, which is the medium-sized one, has a grill. Both of those have a grill. And the Pequeño, which was my hiking version, backpacking version. And now I have a Chiquito, which I'm launching on Kickstarter. And we'll talk about that more too.
Okay. And, all framing, I love the storytelling.
Sure.
I've always talked to you, and every time there's a story, and I love that, all the way from the roots. It's starting there and the Frio River down to Texas, and then now, on the water with your wife and everything. Yeah. It's a really good story to frame kind of like, to some degree, a little bit of a commodity, fire pit.
Sure.
And there's a lot of competitors out there, and we talked about it. It's the solo stoves. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of them out there. They're just the cheap ones. What makes your fire pit different? Yeah. And you've framed it a little bit, but
sure.
What is it?
Well, really I didn't invent fire. It's been around a while. I didn't invent the fire pit. That's been around a while. There are effectively 3 categories of fire pit. There's the burn barrel, which is a solo stove style. When I was in high school, there's a regasifying. They're very efficient and they work really well. And you can scale those back and forth, and those are pretty cool. But you don't see the fire. And so you see a burn barrel. And so we imagine in New York, people would set fires in oil barrels and watch that. They've seen the classic dystopian future things. Yeah, it's fine and it works, but it doesn't really do. Particularly around children. Children don't see the fire. So they see there's a very hot thing, and I'm going to touch it and do that. So that's one category. Another category is kind of the pan style that you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's or other places that are just kind of
that upside bowl.
Upside bowl, right? Yeah, the dish. And so those are wonderfully good at mosquito trapping and rusting out and over time. There are some really well-made ones that are made out of end caps for oil field, and they're really nice, and they work in the capacity that they need to work. They're bulky, they're heavy. So the burn barrel is bulky. You're transporting air. The heavier one is the bowl type is also bulky and either very heavy to be able to take the water or very cheap and they rust out and they have a problem in that. They're disposable to a large degree. And then there's another category where they're collapsible. There's probably a 4th category in the sense of box styles are starting to show up. So Brio and some other companies like that make something, but all of them don't look like a campfire.
Mhm.
My biggest competitor is rocks.
Okay.
Rocks have been around a while, and people put their rocks around their fire pit and have something that looks really interesting. What I do, there are flat packing types, and so PacAPit is a flat packing type that assembles together. I've got one here. We'll go ahead and put it together here in a second with 3 points of contact. So rocks being my competitor, this is the smallest one. So this one's we're doing on
and this is the one on Kickstarter.
This is the one launching on Kickstarter. It ends on the Kickstarter campaign ends on August 31st at midnight or 11:59.
Okay, so there's still be, if you're watching this, there's still
time.
Like
you can get your fire pit. So doing that. So this was designed to be, for backpacker to carry it around, very easy to carry around. This is a complete fire pit right here. They all are the same size, so 3 individual points that are tab and slot. What makes mine different, and again, like I said, my competition is rocks. I built this with the idea that it looks like stones that you would gather and put around. And so it has that aesthetic of a campfire.
Okay.
The triangular shape, there are several factors. One is it's stable. So if I put it here, it's always going to be stable.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, if it's an unlevel surface, I can find one point and level it out. And it works out really well. The ability to put pan on top and cook on it, 3 points of contact, it's always going to be stable. It finds its home really nicely. I've got something here I'll show you in a minute. This is a fuel that's no longer made, and it's a gel fuel. Yeah. So what I wanted to do was create something that allowed for multiple fuels to work out. Putting that in, the different types of fire pits are also like jet boil, but they're not really fire pit. They are a burner. Okay. And so you're carrying your stove, but this fuel works really nicely. It looks like clear toothpaste.
It doesn't even look like it's going to burn, truthfully.
It doesn't.
Like, I've seen it before, but every time I'm kind of like, is this really going to burn?
Yeah. So it's a chemical reaction. It's all organic chemicals. It's a diethylene glycol, which is a chemical string, but it's not man-made. It's just the way chains are. So there are different types of that, and then fumed silica, which is sand.
Okay.
So it's combustible, but not flammable. And the difference between the two are paper is combustible.
Okay.
Fuels like sterno or gasoline are flammable. They tend to burn very quickly. They put off a gas. This one doesn't. But this one actually burns a bit hotter. I don't know if can you see it on the camera? Yeah, you can. And it burns at 1,350 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So we can put...
Perfect for cooking something.
Yeah. So I can even put a pan on here, and I'll put a little bit of water in just for kicks. That's icy water. We'll just see what it does as we talk. So it's going to burn. It's still burning on that. And we'll see what it does as we talk. So being able to boil water.
Yeah, I can see it start to...
Yeah, there it is right there.
Go.
It's starting to simmer out, and that high temperature. This is stainless steel, so you don't want to really cook on stainless steel because it doesn't, unless you get really hot, which this will do that. It's already starting to boil off a little bit. Pretty damn quick.
So you've got the Kickstarter going. You've sold some of the other parts of the bigger 2, essentially. You're selling those right now on your e-commerce. Are you in retail? I think you're in a few stores.
Yeah, right? I've got a few micro retailers. They're specialty boutiques. So our market has focused on overlanding and scouting are kind of the 2 categories.
And overlanding for everybody is like the RV campers, anybody kind of exploring. Like I went to the beach and, you go out there and camp, but you're in an SUV or a truck or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Overlanding people say, no, we're not RVers. But they're really glorified car campers. And it's not to diminish it. If you talk to overlanding the Overlander Journal and other programs, that's what they describe it as. But it's essentially have everything you need right at your ability and to be able to go on some very rougher terrain, off-road. So Texas has very little public lands. We're mostly private. We're mostly privately owned. State parks are great, but state parks have trail systems and things like that. We do have Sam Houston National Forest, which is you can kind of go wherever you want in that and there are trails that are fire trails, but that area. But in New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, California, Idaho, Montana, there are things called BLM, Bureau of Land Management properties. And those people, that's where overlanding really sings because you can just go out into the wilderness. I was in Utah last year about this time, And it was fascinating to me to see driving on the interstate, and there were signs that said, "This is your land."
Yeah.
And people would just drive off the interstate and go out into the wilderness. Particularly, I was on the Bonneville Salt Flats area.
Okay.
And I drove out probably 15 miles into literally the middle of nowhere. There was nothing around, nothing a frame of reference, and it was spooky. So that type of customer, but they also have a very high conservation bent to them. They really want to make sure that things are taken care of. And when I built this, the idea was that it's a leave no trace product.
Okay.
This fuel that I'm burning right now, the only byproduct will be sand on that. So if you're hiking in
that's something you can leave behind. They always say to take what you brought, but that part, it's not like
Right.
ashes. You can actually leave the
Yes.
sand behind.
Yeah. So let's say Devil's River natural area. You have to pack out any ash that you create. You have to pack out your poop. You don't forget to pack out your urine, but you do have to pack out your poop. You have to show them a bag.
That's fine.
Yeah. So it's kind of they call them a ditty bag or something like that. And that's, a lot of places leaving no trace, and your, human biology can affect it in a certain way, particularly if we start doing that. The other reason why I built it this way is so you can build it on top of a campsite that's already existing, and you're not building on top of somebody else's trash.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they kept it clean and they cooked meat on there, animals are going to come and take a look at that and get in there. So overlanding and scouting is another community of conscious of the environment and working in that. So, building those kind of environments, working on those as a marketing niche that to focus in, they have influence to a larger scale.
So you've got your 2 ICPs, which
Yep.
That's the first step, really.
Sure.
Most of the business is the marketing and everything is the ICPs.
Right.
You've got those 2 defined. They're similar in a lot of ways, but also different.
Right.
Like, how are you reaching them? Like, what is your way to like go out and say, hey, I'm doing marketing? Is it events? Is it email? Is it something in between?
Yeah, it's a little bit. So this is the end of
this
is the little bit of smoke that's in there. So what's kind of interesting, this is the same kind of smoke if you were in a smoke machine.
Okay.
It produces the same kind of smoke.
That fog or whatever.
Yeah. So
it smells similar.
Yeah. So I'm gonna diverge a little bit and I'm gonna answer your question. So diethylene glycol has been used as a sweetener in food products.
Scary.
There are a lot of chemicals in our food, and those are kind of things. And some of them are bad and some of them are not bad. This one's not. I would not recommend eating this. I'm glad it's not in food product. It was in wine. Fumed silica. It was used as a sweetener in wine. There was a great wine scandal between Austria and West Germany that they were sweetening wines with diethylene glycol. It happens periodically, and it's not. It is toxic. It is dangerous. It is not. It's fuel. So don't eat it. Don't drink it.
Yeah.
But you're not going to do the same normal stuff. But for what it does, but it's not poison. That it's if you touch it, it's going to hurt you. So in doing that, what's kind of cool about it is that fire's out, and there's my sand.
Yeah, you can touch it and everything.
And it's just sand in that. So anyway, so back to your how am I reaching my customers? So those customers have a very good profile. Leave no trace is a component to it. Right now, I spent May at a scouting conference in Orlando talking to 2,000 scouts and scout leaders primarily, not the Boy Scouts themselves, but the scouting leaders. They represent about 1.5 million people that are actively in there. Those people have those children, or young adults, children have parents and interested adults that are part of that community as well. That's another 3 million potentially in there that are part of that. Then there's alum programs of Kickstarter campaign, or not Kickstarter, of scouting programs that are 50 million. So that's
a really big
it's a
reach
massive
for you,
population.
Especially because scouting is one of those experiences in life. Like if I meet somebody that's handy outside, I'm like, were you ever a Boy Scout?
Right,
yeah.
Right.
I always ask that.
Sure.
Majority of times, I would say like 80-90% of the time, if they're handy outside, Boy Scouting or something related.
Some youth program that was an outdoor oriented program.
Almost always. So that's a really big one. I think
I was not a scout.
Really?
No.
I would have pegged it.
Everybody pegs me that way. But so when I grew up, scouting was right after the Vietnam War, and there were some challenges in that. And I have very good friends that were in that program, and I have no ill will. It just was not for me. But I grew up on 25 acres of land that my parents had, and I lived in a cabin in high school and a little bit in college.
It's in your roots.
It's in my blood. And yeah, it's in my roots. And so I like making stuff and I like creating and doing that. I'm also an artist, and creating and painting and sculpting has always been a big part about it. So creating something aesthetic. Back to your question of how am I reaching these people? So largely it's influencers through Kickstarter or through Instagram and through YouTube, Facebook. I've done farmers markets. That's really how I started in a 10 by 10 tent, not much bigger than this, not much smaller than this booth here, selling through that at various farmers markets around San Antonio and around Central Texas and South Texas area. That gave me some really nice exposure. I'll really call that customer research than anything. Is it a viable
That was a
product?
validation.
A validation, yeah.
I hear a lot of people go to farmers market, especially in physical products. Like most people are talking to, you know, the SaaS founders and these people that are doing services and stuff, but the physical founders,
right,
a lot of times is that farmers market. Did like that research, like I suppose the talking to a customer that just walks by, like that's a unique thing.
Yeah.
Like nowhere else do I really think you can get that. Like unless you walk in and you're able to secure an Ace Hardware or like a Lowe's, like, you know, REI, those are hard things to do. But the first place is that.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. How many times would you go to a farmer's market and expect to see a fire pit?
One of those rare things. I'm looking for the vegetables. I'm looking for the jams, maybe some meats, but
you're also kind of curious what's out there.
Yeah.
And it's more an afternoon or morning discovery. And so, yeah, you want to get some carrots or some eggs and some salad. You may want to pick up some kind of trinket or something like that.
Probably leans a little more like higher income too, I imagine.
Could be. I mean, there's some markets that are, it's a very diverse community.
Okay.
So, you know, people like to be outside, and that's, so, you know, introducing people to a fire pit and saying, you know, you want to see how it works is really my question. So I do the assembly like I just did for you. And inevitably it's kind of a fascinating part about that, but it's, people are not going there to see what they have seen before. When you go into REI or Ace Hardware or Home Depot, you're kind of going with an agenda. Yeah,
That's fair.
Some of us walk in with an intention. I'm just going to kind of wander around and see what I see. And, you know, the old adage, I came in to buy 4 bolts and I ended up with a lawnmower. You know, it's that kind of stuff. But, and people come as I came in to buy 4 eggs or, you know, a dozen eggs and I left with a fire pit. That happens too. I've always joked that you know, the old adage of you can sell an ice cube to an Eskimo in December. I can sell a fire pit to a Texan in July. And this thing is viable and valuable into people and seeing that. So it doesn't take much to sell it. It's more of just exposure and doing that. And so to those hard goods, those consumer goods, it really just to show it to people because it's not something people have seen. Nobody has seen anything like this. I've got 2 patents on it for the design on it. Again, I didn't invent fire and I didn't invent the fire pit. So I couldn't claim a utility patent on the fire pit, but the design I can in doing that. But yeah, it's validated the customers.
It's a great way to do the validation of the customers. And then it also gives you a great way to test out, I imagine, like how to talk to them, how to position it, like the overlanding versus the scouts. Like those are very distinct profiles. Outside of that, you know, events, big, any other sort of marketing that's really helped? Like we can talk into the Kickstarter now even.
Sure. Yeah. So other programs that I've participated in, anything that's a conservation or youth oriented program, I'm happy to participate with. So if it introduces youth to the outdoors, by all means, reach out to them.
I imagine that demographic right there, pretty similar to scouting. Probably the parents, they're liking outdoors, but also they're like, oh, I got to lug this stuff around and I got to deal with this. I got to store it in my house. And that packs flat. Like I have the bigger one, the 36 inch, which is the
Grande.
Right. And we brought it to the beach, put it in there. I slid it in. It was smaller than the chairs. Like it was so easy to deal with.
Do you take pictures?
No, I did not. Oh, you know what? My wife did. I'm gonna have to send them.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
It was such a nice thing because we've never been able to do it, or you bring an actual grill or something.
Sure. And you're transporting heavy air.
And it's so heavy and it's such a hassle to do. And packing everything in a car, no matter how you do it, and we have an SUV, there's just not enough space.
Right.
Like no matter what. And you know, you're going for a few days. So having
But you have
something that there,
something, you have an inch of width. You can pretty much squeeze that anywhere.
it is so flat, and then it pops up, and everyone was like, the first thing everybody said was like, "This is a lot bigger than I expected."
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of impressed. Like, and then when we took it down, they were like, "Okay, that's really nice." Like, the sand didn't do anything. I wasn't worried too much about the seawater.
Sure.
Like, it was a good experience in that. And then, the leave none, because we're in a state park, so we have to make sure we pay attention more.
Did you go to Mustang? Is that where you went?
Yeah, so we went down
nice.
to Corpus Christi, down in the Mustang,
Nice.
and like, love it. There's no cell signal.
Yeah.
You get to escape from everything and do it. That's like the type of people I think of all the time. I see them. They've got the pickup truck, and they've got the little camper on the back.
Yeah.
And
those are
go
overlanding, and it's a very gear-centric community.
Yeah.
It's a lot like golfers. It's a lot like other people. They like the cool stuff, and they like.
I imagine it's a big economic footprint too, right?
Yeah, $6.8 billion in that community.
Huge.
It's massive. Yeah.
So even if you take a small slice, a couple million a year, like, that's a huge push.
Well, I'll take a couple million a year. It'll work. It is when you said out of the cell phone part, I'm going to grab your phone here for just a second. This is what we use as our social network now.
Yeah.
This is the original social network.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when you can get away from the screen. Doesn't mean that that's bad. I'm not disparaging, because I use it a lot and I spend a lot of time on it. But having the ability to sit and be at a fire, you did something when I started this fire, you looked at it and you spent some time, and we were talking over fire. There's some value to that. And if we can teach children, the next generation, that this is something that they can build, they can assemble, and allow it to be non-impactful to the ground, I think there's a story there that they can continue on in doing that. So having that experience that you just described, that it was easy to put up, it was bigger than you thought, it provided for your family something interesting, and no cell phone signal. So it wasn't, we're all sitting here looking at our phone, but we're enjoying time.
Yeah. The kids love the fire. They like to help put it up. They, how do you dispose of it? We had, they're like fire bags, essentially.
Sure.
You just put them all in there.
Right.
But all those experiences is like, normally you don't do that even anywhere else. Like, if you put a fire up anywhere, it's like, okay, great. Or people are like, I don't want to be smoky. This, you don't really deal with a lot of that. There's less wood. There's all of it. So I see the huge appeal to it, and I can see all those overlanders drive by, beautiful vehicles, and they set up, and it's like, boom, like, they take all of the chairs, they've got the Yetis, they've got everything. It's like a very specific class of people.
Yeah. And it's also engaging a community that again wants to be out and explore and find something. So those overlanding communities, they also do a lot of conservation things. So we'll do the Penns Padre Island National Seashore in November. They do a big beach cleanup. We'll be part of that and be down there. We'll have a couple of fire pits down there with there's a retailer here in town, Base Camp Provisions, and then also with Calvary Overland out of the Dallas area that we've got some connections to.
So I'm now, like, full circle. I'm seeing that the influencer way is the best and easiest way, because you can, you could run an ad today for Fire Pit, but you're going to be competing against Solo Stove. You're going to be competing against that other competitor. That
there's a bunch of them.
Like, it's a harder thing to, like, look at an ad and go like, oh, I want this one or that one. But on an influencer basis, it's like, I'm going to show you how easy it is.
Right.
I'm set it up. I'm going to, put the fire here. I'm going to break it down and put it away.
Right.
That, with the storytelling, I imagine, is a really good pairing to build that brand. And then, that one pushover, it's like, okay, hey, let's run some ads. Like, we're in a retailer, or we've got enough notoriety out there. Yeah.
And it's, as a solopreneur on this thing, solo, entrepreneur, engineer, those three things combined together. As part of that opens up a challenge to, how do I do those things? And budget is always the issue.
And that's always the problem with marketing.
I haven't invented the problem with money either. That's, that's been around for a while as well. So finding those influencers, those who are interested in participating, and it's not so much that they're not interested, they're bombarded with, hey, come look at my product. And it was interesting. I was looking on my Facebook handle this morning as I was coming in, and it popped up that I'm a digital creator now and I didn't put that on there, on my personal one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how in the world, and so it explains why I've been getting these hits of, hey, we love what you're doing. Come look at that. And it's probably largely because I produce a lot of content for this on my Instagram, personal Instagram, the professional Instagram, my Facebook. I've got 3.
Have you seen success from that sort of content, or is it kind of like a necessary evil, sort of like?
I would call it an evil, but I would call it I don't have enough traction to say it's measurable to say I've had success.
Okay.
I don't think it's a failure at all. It's a product of process. So you got to keep working at it. You got to keep chipping at it. And I've always taken the attitude of make something. It's going to be broken and it's going to be wrong and it's not going to be working correctly. But then you'll learn from it. If you do nothing, I mean, Wayne Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That type scenario. Keep producing something. In marketing, that can be dangerous because you can produce crappy content and then your name is associated with crap.
And you never upgrade it and take the steps. We all see it out there. You start a little bad and then it progresses better. But then you occasionally see the one brand where it's just like, wow, they haven't gotten better.
Well, or even people see an old ad from a long time ago. I mean, how often do we talk about Coke? And New Coke, that was done in 88. That was before probably most people you're listening to this podcast were born. Actually, it was 83. And I worked in the radio station. I remember when that came out, I was like, this is awesome. And then I tasted it. It's like, this is terrible. But people still remember that being a big blunder.
It's just like Fruit Loops. 2015, they got rid of all the artificial dyes. And nobody loved the taste of it. Everyone hated the muted colors. They ended up doing big marketing push and having to roll it out again.
Right. Skittles, the same thing. Skittles but Skittles turned that into an I'm sorry campaign. They turned it into where they
was good answer.
They really did a good job. They called and they would say, Leon, we're sorry that we discontinued, pink raspberry flavored. I don't eat Skittles, but whatever flavor it was that, and they were addressing people in there. And so taking an advantage of a mistake, honoring that mistake, acknowledging that and say, okay, we're improving. I think we're all human. And if we can trade on that, and so back to, the PacAPit, 16 iterations to get to this, a lot of customers, this is a product of customer request.
Okay.
This is not a product of, I mean, it was something I wanted to make initially, but it was like, okay, well, but I don't see if it'll do that. But at $50, if you get it on Kickstarter, I think right now it's $34 or something like that. Still very inexpensive for what it is.
What is it going to be full price?
Full price will be $50.
Okay,
$50. And that'll be, and then we're adding the fuels and some other things as add-ons.
I really love the fuel thing because if you're going I think Appalachian Trails, there's that Sunset one and then the one in Arizona, the desert one.
Pacific Crest Trail.
There you go. Yep. There's the 3 that everyone
and they just opened one in Texas. It's the Trans-Texas Trails.
I'm going to have to look that up.
I think it goes from Beaumont to El Paso, but it takes you up to Palo Duro, takes you down to through the Piney Woods, up through Palo Duro, all the way down to Big Bend or up through one way or the other. And I would
love to do that.
It's a mark. Yeah.
It's one of those things in my life that I'm like, I would love to do, but the time commitment's huge. And I'm like, one of those, you got to take a sabbatical and just disappear.
Yeah, if you're going to do it solo. I mean, if you're going to do it all at one shot. But nice thing about the Pacific Crest Trail and the Appalachian Trails, you can segment them. Okay. I am not a through hiker of that. But I've done segments of it.
Okay.
And that's enough. I mean, that's, I'll be 60 in a couple of days and it'll be, it's like, yeah, as much as I would like to say I would do that, the reality is it probably won't. But I can acknowledge and enjoy what I have done. And again, it comes back to that marketing process, and that part is you just got to do something.
And you live it. I think a lot of founders and a lot of entrepreneurs don't go to their customer. They don't solicit that feedback. They're not their own customer. I've watched you set this up probably 300 times. You've got it down to a T, and your pitch is so good. Wow. Everyone comes around, and it's just like that social network. And there's always one or two that are like, okay, this is kind of cool.
Sure.
And then they walk off. And then there's always that one person that's like, oh, I want this.
Sure.
We do this with my family, or there's always something. So I definitely see it. Now, on the Kickstarter part.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
You've got the Kickstarter going. you've sold some. Like I want to hear like, well, how did you get to a Kickstarter?
Oh
like,
my gosh,
that's always a fascinating one because Kickstarter is their own little beast these days.
beast is a good word. It can be very friendly, and it can be something you want to pet around, and sometimes like it leaves turds everywhere, and like how do I deal with this? It's all those things. We started again as a solopreneur building this thing, doing it by myself, and you and I've talked a number about this, and I've talked to lots of people about this, and finding somebody that can run with this show and say that's your bailiwick, that's what you're going to be focusing on, and that's what you're going to be the best at. Finding on a Kickstarter campaign, finding someone that can own that, that in its own right is its own product and package, and doing that. There's a whole relationship to doing that. So John Garcia helped get that started, and he's my product manager for this to get that ball rolling, and has done a very good job of doing that.
I love the photography.
He's done a great job.
I saw all of that, and I was blown away just at the setup. Like Kickstarters are they're almost like a piece of art. Like they got to look pretty to the community. It's presentation, it's marketing. It's like, this is what it is. And, fortunately this is a beautiful product. I'm very pleased with the way it looks. So it photographs well. It's a very photogenic product. It's not a jar of something. It's not a can of something. It's not an ethereal product that is software that you really don't know what it is other than imagery and, trying to draw something. Yeah,
so
video demos.
yeah. And so those, but those things work. So Kickstarter, going through that Kickstarter campaign and driving that, was what's the message we're trying to communicate? So what's our market? So for this thing, defining our market is the ultralight hikers, minimalist campers that we've tried to follow that. It has broader appeal. I've had people getting this and they're saying, I'll put a citronella sticks in here. Now I've got something that's kind of a cool looking citronella part. People are starting to marshmallow with these things, getting the marshmallow on the tabletop, where we just did a tabletop here, and to be able to roast marshmallows quietly. Some of the videos that I've produced in the past week have been in my backyard with my grandsons and just settling down and just being at a campfire side. And that's in my backyard. I don't have to be on a trail for this kind of stuff. But at 85 grams, under 3 ounces, it's exceptionally light, takes up no space, being able to pack it in. So being able to communicate that story to Kickstarter. Now, when we rolled out Kickstarter, we got declined on the initial push out, because they said, well, you've been making this product. Well, how's it different than anything else you've made? Well, weight is one thing, but we weren't conveying that really well. So I will commend Kickstarter in the way that they responded back. They were very responsive. Once we made our corrections and adjustments, they approved us within 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So, reasonable.
Interesting to hear that they've got a filter system these days. Like for a long time, anybody can kind of launch, but
so we've sold about 800 of these things, of the bigger ones, different, the different flavors of the bigger ones in all 50 states, 17 countries, 6 continents. The old joke is we're trying to figure out how to put Antarctica in there, but there's not much firewood in Antarctica. But getting that, so they saw it as it's the same design. And so I've talked to a couple of attorney friends and other folks that say, as long as you adjust it by 3 to 5%, you could call this a new product. And so obviously we went from 3 pounds, 4 ounces being our lightest one to under 3 ounces being our lightest one. So that's a big change. This one does not have a grill. I don't think I'll have a grill for it because it's just too.
Yeah, I love that little plate, especially if you're just out, you have that and that plate. Like,
right.
You could do so much.
Yeah. So I've got that. And then as one thing about Kickstarter I didn't know about, but we could do, is that you can do add-ons. So this has been seasoned. That's why it looks kind of
it's the best way. That's how I know when something's been like seasoned. You see it and it's like, oh no.
So this is called a paella pan. So paella is a standard. And when I built PacAPit, that was the thing I wanted to work it on. I have a smaller one that somebody sent to me from Spain. A friend sent me. It was tiny. It would not fit in there. So it's like, there's got to be. So they make paella pans in lots of different sizes, and we've got these, and I can get these, and these will be an add-on, but that'll fit really nicely on there. And again, to cook into here, I can fry an egg. I can cook bacon in here. There's machado, which is a shredded beef, Mexican shredded beef. That's dry. It's like jerky, but it's been pounded to where it's almost like cotton candy texture. So making that into a stew or into rice, adding some dry ingredients that you can do that. So you're not eating crappy bag camping food. You're actually cooking something pretty interesting on this. And so back to the Kickstarter, they allow you to do kind of bundles and other kind of things. So this is one thing that we're going to add as everybody that did the early bird special will get this at a discount.
Okay.
So I think we're going to do this at $10 edition.
Yeah.
For a little pan that looks really cool. It won't be seasoned. You'll have to season it yourself, but it'll come with instructions. But it fits, nicely on that. And it works really well. So again, you can have a campfire experience.
I really like that little pan. Like I could see a lot of uses. I also like the idea of the citronella in it. That was just like, it blew my mind there for a second. I was like, oh, I buy those stupid citronella candles all the time.
And so you have something that's, you don't have the candle. You just put the incense type things in there. I have friends that put incense in here. They have resins that they've done that with it as well. So this fuel works really nicely, but you can do a charcoal fuel that, like for hookah and things like that. There's a charcoal fuel that works. This will also burn wood, burn regular chunk charcoal, smaller versions of it.
I like that.
Really efficiently.
So on the Kickstarter, you guys have been selling. Is there any other promotion outside of like Kickstarter? Like I've seen all the emails. I love that you guys have been doing email marketing.
Well, thank you.
I think that's great. And then I've seen the social media. Anything else like to push the
So I'm doing a lot of podcasts. So I'm doing this one today. Yeah. So I appreciate you thank you for inviting me to do this. I did one with my patent attorney, what's called Perpetual Motion. Glenn's out of Austin, and
we'll
Colin.
Put that in the show notes too.
Yeah, and Colin's, but I don't think they're going to come live until maybe October, so it'll pass the Kickstarter. But we're promoting it as much as we possibly can, press releases, trying to get as much traction on it. We've had some good traction. We're at over 35%.
Okay.
Not even a week into it, which I would like to have seen us hit our goal ahead of time. But
there's still some room to hit that goal.
Yeah. And so it's, again, you keep trying, you keep pushing at it. And like you said, people will gather around this thing and not. I still have customers that call me a year later and say, I saw you at such and such, and it's been on my mind. So I wanted to get a PacAPit in doing that. So this has some mental stickiness to it. And trying to expose that out, and people begin to say, well, I could do this and I could do that with it. And it's interesting. I mean, people use them as planters.
I find it fascinating. When I mention you, they're like, oh, John, like so many Johns. And I'm like, he's got PacAPit. And they're like, I'm like, who always set up a fire? And they go, oh, I love that little device.
Yeah.
They were like, that's such a cool thing. I've always thought about buying it, and then I don't.
Sure.
So like there is a uniqueness to it. It reminds me of when Solo Stove kind of hit the market, where everyone was like, oh, I love that. And now they've kind of like waned, but there's a stickiness to like these unique designs. And it's just, it's such a cool thing, especially when you see the influencers start to pop up. Like I went and watched some of the videos of other people, and I was like, they make it look much cooler than I could ever.
Yeah. Yeah. But the reality is you're looking at it from the outside in. And as you're doing it yourself, you're like, oh, I'm not as cool. But somebody else is watching you. You're like, this is really cool. Like when you set it up at the beach, people were like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. One of the other families we were with, the guy was like, hey, I want to use that.
Right.
And I'm sure that he's going to go look for it and stuff. Like, it's one of those things where he's like, that material, and like, I don't care how much it is. It's like, it's going to last me. And that's always the appeal to people, is like, hey, how long is it going to last me? Is it going to be a year and I abuse it and it's done? Or is it going to be maybe 5 years and at some point I'm going to have to replace a part or something?
Right. Yeah. So, on the Kickstarter, which I want to start pushing this week, is the durability of this thing. So this is aluminum and stainless steel. My goal when I made this was that my grandson's grandchildren, meaning when I'm dead and long gone, and their grandchildren are going through their estate, meaning they're old, they find this in their packaging of stuff, and they're like, that's really cool. I still can use that. We all have some degree of an experience where we've gone through something and we found, my grandfather's watch, or my grandfather's knife, or my grandmother's, well, my grandmother didn't cook, but my wife's grandmother cooked a lot, a spatula or a pan.
The sentimental value.
It's beyond sentimental. It's still functional. It still works. It still does what it was supposed to do. A good tool, good thing. And that, if it sat on a shelf, what good is it? It's collecting dust. If it gets used, that's phenomenally successful. And so if it has some of that legacy to it, I mean, good design, if it sits in a museum, I'd be happy. I mean, my ego fantasy as an artist would be to see this in the MoMA. There is a design wing in the MoMA, and they have everything from telephones to typewriters to computers to chairs to pencils in the MoMA. I mean, utilitarian options. I don't see why this can't go in there.
One day, it all goes back to your storytelling. Even the part of like you want it to be a utility that's stepped down. I'm thinking about that. Like, oh yeah, we used some stuff from my wife's grandmother that cooked, and it's like there's a sentimental, like, oh yeah, we're using it for Thanksgiving, and then you tell the grandkids or the kids, in my case, kids, that oh yeah, like your grandmother used to do this, and this is how she did. And she used this knife that we have, and it's like, okay, that's a really great story. And one day when you're around the fire, you can be like, my grandfather made this, and we used it all the time, and we used to do that. I think everything you do is really rooted in storytelling, and that's what your superpower is.
And that's what this is. This is a storytelling device.
And that's what marketing is.
Exactly. So back into your business is to convert my BS that I throw out all the time into something that's cohesive and measurable. That's a big part of it. So you've asked me a couple of times, how do you measure this, or how do you get this out and doing those things? I'm weak at that. And so finding an individual like yourself, and you've been helpful with this GAP program here at Geekdom and providing some guidance.
And you got an intern from it, and
I think that
helped a ton, right?
She's back in El Paso, but she's working for one more week, St. Mary's student, and she sat in a meeting. I think she sat in a meeting with you and came up with an idea that diverted. It was for Coachella. It was for Coachella and those people, but it was also the idea of the trail, the road, and the home. Those three places are where this fire pit's using. And so I think she's done having other people come up with ideas. And again, doing it by myself is good and dangerous, because you start feeding yourself and it's like, I need people. And that's why those markets were so good. I would not have invented a grill if I had not talked to customers. I would not have invented a bigger size or a smaller size had I not talked to customers. This one was, again, kind of on my radar, but this was the last one I've developed. So that third party, that third eye coming in and saying, have you thought about this or doing that? Doesn't mean you have to listen to every bit of advice, but it does give you something that's sticky. And you've told me some things that have stuck in my head, and it's like, yeah, okay. And I kind of null it down. And then maybe 3 months down the road, it's like, yeah, let's apply that.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how to make that work out, or how do we take those things? So I think, Curio, is that right? You were giving me some list of some websites that for marketing research.
Yeah.
But you've done, so it's not so much that I've used exactly that, but that influence of where that is.
Yeah. Some of those, like those parts. I love that.
Yeah. And what it does do is it makes me think about, okay, am I thinking about this correctly? And doing that. And again, back to the social network, this thing replaces that as a social, we're able to have that.
Especially right now, there's a movement to, kind of separate yourself from your phone, be healthier, be more outside. Like there's just a natural progression that, we swung all the way hard to social media, and now we swung away from it. It's there, and
it's an addictive quality. And I'll admit, I will look at my phone quite a bit, and there's doom scrolling, and I think, okay, it's almost like sitting at a bar, 1977, drinking, sitting in there. That's what we did. We just drank, not that we meaning us, but there's that perception of what is the addiction of the time.
Yeah. And newspapers for a little bit, and then the internet came. There's always
television,
whatever the brain rot, the rock and roll, the rap. There's always that.
Damn kids. These damn kids are, they're not in my day. So Socrates, I think, was one that said, children don't listen to their parents and don't understand anything. It's like, okay, there's nothing new.
I see it now.
Yeah.
Well, I really like it. I'm going to put the show notes in there. I'll put the Kickstarter. I'll put the PacAPit. I'll put your socials.
Yep.
We'll slide in all of that.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming on, John.
Thanks.
Like this is super fun to do, and I also love all of this. And I'll support your Kickstarter, and I'm sure some of these listeners will too.
The more people support it, we got to hit 5,000 for hit the goal. Once we do that, anybody that's within San Antonio area will get their delivery very quickly, because we've got the ability to produce them very fast. We'll do some kind of event. I've got a couple of restaurants that have said they wanted to do something there. So we'll all roast marshmallows together and have a good time.
I love that. Thank you so much, John.
You're welcome. Thanks, Leon.